Last week, the ComEd 4 found guilty of corruption, and the call for ethics reforms at the Illinois Statehouse continues, with Republicans demanding that there be some changes to how lawmaker conduct is regulated. Good morning, Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And this obviously is something that is fresh in the minds of people, especially after the ComEd 4 were all found guilty on all charges, and the jurors there saying that they understand lobbying needs to happen, and it's a crucial part of crafting policy, but they say that what happened with the ComEd 4 and prosecutors provided, wiretap phone calls and even undercover recording and documents and a whole host of things. The jurors there said that what happened was illegal. And of course, this all centers around former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan, who's pleaded not guilty, and he faces charges in that case next year. Well, Governor Pat Quinn visited Springfield. He was governor from 2009 to 2015, and earlier this week we reviewed some of what he had to say, urging that legislative leaders and Governor J.B. Pritzker call a special session to deal specifically with ethics reforms. And that was brought up during a unrelated news conference with Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday, where the governor laid out his response to the idea of ethics reforms and whether or not he's going to call a special session. Here is Governor J.B. Pritzker from yesterday.
I saw the letter, and I know there were enumerated some ideas at the end of the letter, and I think those are, ideas, some of them worthy of consideration.
Will you call a special session to deal those?
Well, he's asking for a special session. We're still in session, so there's an opportunity while in session, and of course, all along there are opportunities for the General Assembly to take up these ideas. Well, again, the General Assembly has, as you know, committees and hearings and has addressed ethics concerns over time. I don't think that there's anything that's been specifically brought up, by the recent doings in court that isn't already illegal in law. They have been found guilty. And I think, we need to look always at upgrading and improving our ethics laws in the state, and so I want to continue to do that.
So Governor J.B. Pritzker seemed to echo a sentiment that's been raised before by other Democratic leaders, even former Senate President John Cullerton. I forget which lawmaker at that time, several years ago, was arrested and charged with corruption. It may have been Martin Sandoval, the late state senator. It may have been Louis Arroyo, a former state representative. May have been Tom Cullerton, a former state senator, who, by the way, is back at the State House as a lobbyist after serving 7 months in prison for those corruption charges. So it's always, hey, there are things that are illegal. These people are found to have violated the law, so the laws are already in place. There shouldn't be anything necessarily, we need to continue to look at ethics reforms, but there's already laws that these people broke and they're charged with. State Representative Ryan Spain, a Republican from Peoria, who's on the Ethics and Elections Committee in the House, he and other Republicans were pushing for more ethics reforms and a focus on ethics, especially in the final few days of legislative session. And I asked them to respond to Democrat leaders who in the past and in the present, as you just heard from Governor J.B. Pritzker, that there are already laws in place that these people are being found guilty of. Here is State Representative Ryan Spain reacting to that presumption.
I want to jump in on that too. I think it's a good question, Greg. And we cannot, none of us, no one should accept as a reasonable outcome a narrative that the system worked. Okay, 4 people who were involved in a corrupt bribery scheme have been found guilty. Mike Madigan will see his day in trial sometime next week. The system is working. That's outrageous. That is unacceptable. The system created an outcome where a $4 billion benefit was delivered to a large corporation, and the legislative process was corrupted and maligned to deliver favors and certain outcomes. That is outrageous. And so that's what we have to begin changing. Okay, these 4 people have been found guilty. Madigan, we'll see what happens with him. But we have an obligation to change the way that things work here in this building. And we can't accept as a reality that if something goes wrong here, the courts will take care of it eventually. We have to be held to a higher standard in this building as people who are elected on behalf of the citizens of the state of Illinois.
So again, that's Ryan Spain reacting to Democrats who in the past and currently have said that, hey, there's laws already on the books that these people are violating and they're being found to have violated them, and therefore, they're found guilty of these things. So what's going to happen in the final few days of legislative session? Are lawmakers going to come together and hold committee hearings to delve into the ComEd 4 case and all of the various things that may have led up to a nearly decade-long bribery scheme of a utility giving little to do nothing jobs to associates of former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan? And something else to consider, too, is Madigan, he had a nexus of power that's not been seen before in Illinois, let alone the country. And that was being the House Speaker, controlling the House Democrats committee fund for politics, while also being the committee chair for the Democratic Party of Illinois, controlling the Democratic Party of Illinois' campaign funds, while also having his committee ward fund and his personal Friends of Michael J. Madigan fund, which he has $9 million or so, and he can use that for defense in the ongoing corruption allegations that he faces next year in federal court. And that nexus of power, being able to, guide what legislation's brought up while also controlling the purse strings of political finance, again, is a nexus of power we haven't seen. And is there going to be some kind of reforms to keep that from happening again in the future? We'll see. It's unclear, but obviously with guilty verdicts in the ComEd 4 bribery case and Michael Madigan facing those charges next year, there's a lot of unanswered questions as to what state lawmakers are going to do when it comes to ethics reforms at the Illinois Statehouse.